ideas. Here it is.
So what is USAID? When people hear the name USAID, they focus on aid. They focus on thinking like it's humanitarian work. But aid is not actually in the name of USAID. USAID stands for the United States Agency for International Development, not aid. It's not a charity. And international development is simply capacity building.
So USAID is a black ops bank account. That's what it is. It's not
Right.
it's not America helping other people any more than Gatorade is a charity for alligators.
And what is black ops? Despicable crime your country does, and that's why they call it black ops, because it's illegal
Right.
and evil.
That's right. So here he's going to explain the rest. He calls it capacity building. What does that mean?
It is local and regional capacity building done across the whole world, i.e. internationally. The primal id in USAID, international development, is about capacity building of assets that can be used by either the Pentagon, the State Department, or the CIA for their own activities. So if you're the Secretary of State and you were asked by the National Security Council or the President to do something in a different country, overthrow their government, stop the passage of a bill in a foreign country's legislature, how would you do that? And the first thing that I said is you would look at the assets that already exist in the country. Do we need new assets in addition to the ones that we currently have, or are the existing assets, can they achieve this simply by giving them enough money, giving them enough resources, giving them enough training?
So like what they'll do is they want to create unrest in a country. They'll go and give billions of dollars to maybe some unions, or they'll give billions of dollars to whatever, some groups. They'll invent the groups, and then they'll create
Kind of what they did here.
Yeah.
With BLM. Kind of the same thing that they do to the other countries.
Yeah.
That's what they did to you.
That's
and
right.
They're going to keep doing it.
That's right. Okay.
Giving them enough support. One of the main ways that capacity building would be financed would be through USAID. USAID would say that it's doing something, funding a hospital system, funding universities, funding civil society organizations, funding media institutions, funding independent media in the region. Sorry, that's something in my eye. Independent media in the region on USAID payroll. And those institutions, those assets would then be bigger and more powerful and more capable, more capable of serving the State Department's goal, aka advancing U.S. national interests. USAID has a bigger budget.
And by U.S. national interests, what he means there is Western economic hitmen's interests, meaning Wall Street's interest, the military-industrial complex interest, big pharma's interest, which is why the CIA covered up the COVID thing. And where it came from. So the deep state, the blob, is there to serve corporate power and billionaire power. It's not there to serve U.S. So when he says U.S. national interest, he doesn't mean the people's interest. He means the people who run the government's interest, the billionaire class, the donor class, Wall Street, the military-industrial complex. That their interests. That's what the USAID is there to do. Okay.
The State Department, over $50 billion. It is a bigger budget than the CIA. The entire intelligence community only has about 72 billion. So that's the CIA plus the 16 others. And USAID is a bigger budget than the CIA and is almost the size of the entire intelligence community combined. That is how important USAID is to American statecraft. It is.
And Trump just shut it down. So all the, what's a better term? All the fuckery that the evil criminals who work in our CIA and NSA, all those people in USAID, doing fuckery around the world, overthrowing governments, sowing color revolutions, all that stuff, overthrowing democratically elected governments on the regular, and installing right-wing governments that are loyal to the corporations, to the U.S. economic hitmen. That's what they're doing. Okay.
An intelligence community, a State Department, and a Pentagon assistance organization rolled into one. I just copied this from the USAID website. USAID carries out U.S. foreign policy, advances U.S. national interests by promoting broad-scale human progress. At the same time, it expands stable, free societies, creates markets and trade partners for the United States, and fosters goodwill abroad. The operative phrases here are carries out U.S. foreign policy. This is not charity work. This is not aid. This is cynical, self-serving purposes. And what is it seeking to do? Free societies, open societies. Why does USAID want other countries to be open societies?
Why?
Because that's how you get the influence in. If a country is a closed society, they're closed off from USAID influence. We cannot capacity build our assets there. Closed societies box USAID out. China is a closed society. That is why we have not been able to topple the government of China, despite having tried for 100 years now almost. We have not been able to topple Putin from Russia. Why? Because Russia is a closed society. Like China, they kicked USAID out. It is not an open society. And so the USAID can't just take over their entire media ecosystem by funding 100 different media.
So that's what we did in Ukraine. The United States funded all their media outlets, these right-wing media outlets that were in bed with the Nazis that propagandized their people. So that's just like kind of like what they do here in the United States, but they don't. What?
So I love telling this to conservatives, okay, because they all, the CCP, blah, blah, blah. Tiananmen Square, which we know from WikiLeaks was not
Soros.
China being violent. That was George Soros who fomented that and was not welcome back after. Did Billy Joel sing about that in his We Didn't Start the Fire song? No. I didn't know until Jackson the Hair Hinkle showed it to me. And I remember shouting like, what? Because Tiananmen Square bullshit that right-wingers still believe in their heart and don't want to let go of. That was George Soros. I can't say it to Republicans enough. George Soros was behind that.
Propaganda outlets in the region to sway hearts and minds. And remember, that's what this is. It's hearts and minds and cash. That's what soft power is. They call it hearts and minds work, but it's cash that does the moving of those hearts and minds, especially of the leaders of the movements.
So that's what USAID is. So Amy Klobuchar, again, she's in bed with the blob, the deep state, because they do the bidding of the corporations that own her, right? So the Democratic Party, like the Republican Party, is beholden to the corporations. You don't live in a democracy, you live in an oligarchy. So these are the puppets of the oligarchy, right? And Trump came in and he was a bull in a china shop. And that's why the Republican establishment is against Trump, just like the Democratic establishment is against Trump. This is why. Because now
Trump's on point now.
Because he had the 4 years off, he figured out, or the people around him figured out, you got to get rid of USAID. That's where all the power is. You got to get rid of it. He did his second week in office? He did it.
Where was this for years?
Amy Klobuchar says shutting down USAID is not about efficiency. It's about undermining America's global leadership. USAID counters extremism, fights diseases, and creates more markets for U.S. exports. This is reckless and dangerous.
It counters extremism? Did you say that? Then why are you Democrats always whining about extremism if it's so good?
So I think at this point we can honestly say that AIDS has done less damage than USAID.
I like AIDS better than Bono from U2, if I'm being honest.
And so she, by the way, Amy Klobuchar is not intelligent or sane enough to go whoops after saying this part out loud.
Yeah, go eat a salad with a comb, you pig.
So here, James Lee is going to let us know what's the truth about USAID. Watch this.
Just his
we
face.
have news right now. The Trump administration has completely shut down the USAID website, which is the agency responsible for humanitarian assistance around the world.
So that's what they're saying. So that's what all the asswipes on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram are going to say. All the asswipes on CNN and MSNBC, and I bet even Fox might say it. That he's doing. Oh my God! He's taking away aid to people and medicine and humanitarian aid. Well, James Lee is here to disabuse you of that stupid propaganda idea. Here.
His face was perfect. He could have just left it at that and you would get it.
No. USAID is not just a humanitarian aid organization. It is a front in order to run covert intelligence ops around the world to do coups and regime change operations and all kinds of other criminal activities. In the mid-2000s, USAID was exposed for building a, quote, fake Cuban Twitter designed to lure in young users and slowly feed them anti-government content to spark protests. USAID was also involved in the 2014 coup in Ukraine, which some argue has led to the war in Russia now. And this stuff goes back decades and decades and decades. In 1973, USAID helped pump in millions of dollars to overthrow a democratically elected leader, Salvador Allende, to install a dictatorship that would be more friendly to U.S. interests. The organization is also involved in other sketchy activities like this, pause to read, and also this very interesting rabbit hole if you want to go down it. All the while, USAID was actively pressuring media organizations around the world to censor certain narratives. My point is, I'm sure there are some people on the ground doing good work at USAID. I'm sure there's good people doing good work. But at its core, it is a criminal organization. I just thought people would benefit from knowing this context.
Yeah.
So USAID is a front group for the CIA, a front group, kind of like Jimi Hendrix opening up for the Monkees. The CIA is cool. And if you doubt it, just watch Amazon Prime.
All